for the last 2 good hours to see how the preparations are currently ongoing. Just like the way you can just see behind me, these are some of the members who have been tasked to make sure that these particular elections are going to kick off in earnest. And of course, right now as we speak, the preparations are currently on top gear ahead of the grassroots elections that are going to be conducted on Friday. It is just 1 day ahead. Remember, tomorrow is on Thursday, and then Friday, elections will be conducted in 5 counties, beginning from Nairobi and of course Homa Bay, Narok, and other parts of the country. And there are quite critical questions that we would like to understand how the elections are going to be conducted, and keeping in mind that currently the country is experiencing a lot of heavy rainfall, and these are some of the questions that we are going to ask. Maybe if I can just be joined by the chairperson of the National Elections Board, that is Anthony Mwaura. If you can just come in, maybe to understand and ask some few questions pertaining these elections. We understand some of the materials had been brought to the country at the JKIA on Sunday, if I'm not wrong, and we would like to understand how many gadgets are you people going to use for these particular elections. And we understand it's going to be done in phases. First of all, you're going to begin in 5 counties. So I would like to understand how many gadgets are going to be used for this particular election.
We are going to use approximately 3,500 gadgets, and we are preparing them now. We are uploading, tagging, and doing everything possible for onward transportation to the polling centers.
I would also like to understand how many centers are we looking at as far as the election is concerned in the first phase of the grassroots election for UDA.
To be precise, 2,985 polling centers. 2,985 polling centers. That is where you'll be having our elections.
There are quite critical questions pertaining the issue of Isiolo, Garissa, because I received a report that actually the residents from that particular region are saying that it should be pushed. Why do you think so, and why not now?
You know, there was the issue of Ramadan. Most of our members there are Muslims, and we had to give them that privilege of letting them enjoy the Ramadan. Then we agreed that we push the elections to June for Garissa and August for Isiolo. And unanimously we agreed we give them that privilege and honor.
It is the first time we are seeing the elections are going to be done electronically, and right now just behind you there are people who are trying to familiarize with some of these gadgets, if I'm not wrong. And what is their surety that the elections are going to be free and fair?
These people behind here are more than 200 young people who are specialists in IT, and they know their work and they are doing their work properly. And I can tell you for sure, our gadgets are seriously secure. We cannot mess our elections, and we are very serious in whatever we are doing. We have told our party members that our elections will be free, fair, and the party leader have given us instruction that we are here as honest arbitrators, but not people who take sides, any sides at all. And judging from the history, our history, this party is known to have done very free and fair nominations. And all our people who are nominated, who went to the nominations and won, 98% were able to win the IBC elections. And even on Friday, it will be very free and fair. I can assure our UDA members that.
I still have 2 other more questions pertaining the issue of heavy rainfall that is currently affecting some regions. How are you people prepared to navigate in this particular dilemma?
We have already mapped the counties whereby we'll be doing the elections, and we are going to give our party members the chance to elect their preferred aspirants, and even if it means airlifting, we are going to airlift our election materials. Already 2 choppers will be on standby, just in case there are some areas which has been cut off by the rains. So each and every polling center will be doing the elections on that particular day. I can assure our party members that.
There's also another question here I would like to ask pertaining the issue of there are other very influential politicians from the other side of the coalition, that is Azimio, who are likely or rather said to have planned on interference. How, as the party, how are you prepared on this particular issue?
Already we wrote a letter to the Inspector General of Police, and he has guaranteed us security. And I don't think that our opponents are really ready to interfere with the elections, because already they are having their own problems organizing the elections. So I can tell our party members that our elections will be devoid of any violence, and let me assure them that the IG have assured us on the issues of security. And all the areas, the 5 counties, security will be enough. And we don't believe there will be any skirmishes, and we want to urge our party members that violence is out of bound in our party. In our party, we desist violence. And even the time we had nominations, there is no area which had violence. And even this time, we have said that anybody who will be violent, it will lead to automatic disqualification, immediate and automatic disqualification, especially violence against women. And our party leader is very clear about it. So my members will not worry about security. It is guaranteed. In our polling centers, we'll be having 2 policemen to guarantee security and peace during the voting period. Our voting will start at 9, and it will end up at 3. And 1 minute after the end of voting, the elections will be out. It is a phenomenon. There's nothing like that which has ever happened in Africa. We are the first party in the whole of Africa to do electronic voting. Results coming out after 1 minute after the closure of the polling center. And we guarantee our members that there's nothing to worry about. We are really prepared. We are geared to go. The first batch of materials are leaving in 1 hour's time to Busia, West Pokot, and Homa Bay. So there's nothing to worry about. We are set. We are really prepared, and everything will be well and fine. And all our party members will be very proud of how my members have organized these elections. We have been here for the last 3 days. These NEM members have not slept for the last 3 days. Even today, they are not going to sleep. And tomorrow in the morning, they are proceeding to their respective counties, because each and every NEM member is in charge of a particular county. And they have said that they are going to give it all to make sure that our elections will be the most credible and to make our party members proud. We want to set the pace, and it will be very good for our democracy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that briefing that you've given us. I don't have any other question.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. That is the chairperson of the National Elections Board of the United Democratic Alliance, the UDA, who was just brief us on how the preparations are currently on top gear and what is expected tomorrow and the D-Day, that is on Friday, where the elections are going to be conducted in different counties. Just like the way you've just heard, it is quite clear that everything is currently on top gear, and it's all systems go. Back to you, Hibek Said, to the studio.
All right, that is our reporter Paul Kirobi, who is already in the headquarters of the UDA. We already have our panel here. When we come back from a very short break, we'll be talking about floods. Don't go too far.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome to the Daily Report and welcome back, of course, to the marketplace. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the cost of floods, especially to Kenyans. We keep getting the statistics, but how exactly are people being affected? You know that already 20,000 or so households have already been disproportionately affected. In studio, I have with me a very powerful panel. I have Victor Otieno, an economist. I have Anthony Mushiri, who is the Kenya Red Cross Society Emergency Response Manager. And of course, I have Nicholas Murero, who is an environmentalist, and he is also the chairman of Narok County National Resources and Network. I'll start with you, Victor. What do you think is the true cost of these floods to the common mwananchi?
Thank you very much. I think first things first, the great John Maxwell is credited for saying that everything rises and falls based on leadership. And good leadership produces progress, and bad leadership results in hardship.
Right.
So I think that's the first point where we need to start. In terms of quantifying the losses, in terms of the impact of the downpour, it can be looked at from the perspective of opportunity cost.
Right.
So this is the lost revenue that your average business person would have earned but is not earning because of the disruption towards floods.
Right.
So of course the challenge with Kenya in terms of impact, it's even higher because a lot of our entrepreneurs are small businesses who do wholesale retail.
Right.
So they depend on face-to-face or walk-in customers to come to their premises, whether they're selling vegetables or just selling camera clothes.
Right.
And because they're not able to make sales, it means that it has a direct bearing on their ability to be able to buy their day-to-day milk and bread.
Of course.
Which is very devastating.
The opportunity cost is something that we're going to be taking a deep delve into, considering that the floods or the rainfall is not going to be dissipating anytime soon. And talking about dissipation, Anthony, thank God we have you here tonight. You are the manager, emergency response of the Kenya Red Cross Society. You have been on ground. What exactly is happening in the country?
So thank you once again. Glad to be here, and really what's happening is a situation where nature is taking its course.
Right.
And as it takes its course, we are bearing the brunt of it. So that being said, lots of people have been displaced, lots of people are suffering just sleepless nights. And as Kenya Red Cross, we're out there doing the best we can to save a life.
Right.
To save one life, it's as good as saving the world. So
right.
one life at a time. This is what we're doing to save lives.
Right.
And we won't relent. We won't relent in that spirit and effort to save lives.
Right. Of course, we have the numbers here. We have the humanity aspect here. And of course, we need to think about nature. What exactly is happening? Is this a consequence of our own actions? Nicholas, thank God you're here tonight to tell us that as an environmentalist. What exactly is happening? We came from a period of intense drought, and now we're in a period of intense flooding. What is happening?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, actually. What's happening? Definitely, I can say it's a nature time. 20, 50 years ago, we used not to have these kind of problems.
Right.
This is a human activities which have brought us to these problems coming up right now in all over. You know, before we started the development like cities and other places,
of course,
we used to have white people who done a lot of mapping in the entire country, whereby they know the beacon is somewhere. They know this area is not a fit place to be built. Right now, where I come from, actually, in Narok County, we have done much because in Narok Town, as you know, Narok Town always have a lot of flooding. Right. But this time round, no flooding at all.
Right.
It's only happened in Mara, where we lost two rangers and some land cruisers, which were washed by floods.
Right.
But I can say all these totally human activities, cutting down the trees, farming activities, doing wrong to the nature, because as a Maasai where I come from, our people, we learn on how to follow culture. We know how to deal with nature through culture.
Right.
But the moment we go away with culture, definitely the nature will face us.
Right.
So all this is human activities and development, which is causing all this death and many other things.
Right.
Because you see, when you tell people don't do this, that's what they do. You see, all people are rushing to Nairobi.
Right.
They buy land to build. And also I blame the government because you see, the government, the county and the national government, they need to have a way of planning. We cannot change planning, which was done 50 years ago.
Right.
We need to follow that plan, which was put there 50 years ago.
Right. So one would even say that maybe this is the consequence of our very own actions.
We need to follow the former governments.
Right.
And follow the former plans, physical planners. We should not change plans which are there before.
Right.
Because we know there are rivers, seasonal rivers which are there. We know already, we have already cultivated our forest in almost the neighboring counties in Nairobi.
Right.
And the moment you do that, that's why we get flooding around.
Right,
But we need to educate the people around.
Of course.
Also to plant trees.
Of course.
Yeah?
Right.
And to educate the local community on when climate change is there.
All right, and now we need to touch base. Let's touch base with the ground, what exactly people are saying. Let's take a look at what Nairobi residents were saying just today.
Mambo kama hii inatayarishwa mapema. Ikifanyika mvua kama hii maji haiwezi fanya biashara zisimame na watu watalala njaa leo.
Naweze kutenga pesa ambazo zitatumika kuhifadhi maji ambayo yanamwagika. Mvua imenyesha kubwa sana, na wakati kuna ukame, kunakuwa kwamba hakuna maji ambayo watu wanaweza kutumia kukunywa, ya mifugo ama ya kulima.
Right. It's a very popular saying, preparation prevents poor performance. And of course, Victor, you are all about performance. Kuna watu watalala njaa leo, right? A lack of preparedness has brought us to this particular, station. Roads have been blocked. What exactly do you feel about those statements?
Like I said, everything rises and falls on leadership. And I think this is a good inflection point for us to reflect on the type and kinds of leaders that we elect into office who bear the responsibility for use of public resource for the greater good of the residents. So again, leadership at national level, leadership at county level. Rains are not something that happened suddenly.
Right.
I mean, the National Disaster Management Unit had even given a warning that we are going to, and even the Met department consistently gives enough warning, that we are going to get more than, or we are going to get a heavy downpour.
Right.
And of course, at national government as well as at county government, we have specific sectors that deal with disaster. We have budgets, and with good warning, it means we're able to allocate resources to be able to alleviate. Right. We know that we have systemic challenges with the city in terms of drainage and, of course, the lack of planning, or having an updated master plan in terms of the city. That's fine. You can, that's a systemic challenge. But I think we can be able to do something at least in the short term.
Right.
And I think this is where we are seeing a suboptimal or a failure in terms of being able to anticipate that this is going to happen and having appropriate plans and measures to just mitigate and just be able to support in case such a thing happens.
Right.
Up to now, we haven't seen any significant response in terms of even assisting the people who've been affected by the flooding. You can see some people are saying, I'm going to sleep hungry today. I don't have anywhere to sleep. I mean, can we be able to even, in participation or in collaboration with other partners to be able to offer even food, some temporary shelter, right. I mean, some sort of reprieve as we look for a long-term solution.
Right.
Saying that, we found Nairobi like this. These are perennial challenges. I mean, we don't have money.
Right.
I mean, that's why we elect you to office. We elect you for you to be able to solve for us solutions.
Right.
And that's your day job. So I think at some point we see some leadership dropping the ball.
Right.
And I think we need to be able to hold our leaders to account. And they should not come to our side and say, okay, now they are complaining with us. I mean,
right.
That's where I see a challenge in terms of leadership.
Right, and we will be getting sentiments from leadership, of course, so that we know what exactly leaders are saying. We have seen a lot of finger pointing. You did this, you didn't do this. But when it comes to what should we do now that we're already in this situation, it's an emergency situation. As Red Cross, Anthony, how exactly are you helping out the people, and what exactly should people be doing now that we are already here in this situation?
Well, a number of things. This is just the initial stage of the disaster. We are looking at life saving. As you correctly put it, in the emergency phase, for us, of keen interest is to save lives.
Right.
Just today alone, we're able to save 286 people,
right.
like rescue them from their marooned houses. After this, immediately will come in the issue of wherever they settle down in terms of food, in terms of shelter. But more importantly, how do we recover from this? How do people recover from their lost livelihoods?
Right.
Now that will come in with the rehabilitation phase of the disaster before moving on to how again we start to prepare for whatever else that can come.
Of course.
For us, we know we've not faced the worst yet. In disaster, in management of disasters, we say there's no worst situation that can get to us. Right. There's no bad situation that can get to us.
Right.
And the worst is yet to come, and this is what you're preparing for.
Right.
So even as we save lives, we are keen and alert to what else, what other measures will you be doing to safeguard the interests of those whom we've saved.
Right.
But more interesting is to know tomorrow others will also get into trouble.
Of course. As we continue with this conversation, I've been informed that we should go for a very short break. But when we come back, we give you more details, more numbers, and more, of course, conversation starters here on The Marketplace. Don't go too far.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. Welcome to the marketplace. We were just diving into the cost of floods. And of course, now I have to throw the ball to Nicholas Morero. But before that, let's just take a look at a few facts that have been happening within the country and the cost of floods, the true cost of floods. Gentlemen, maybe we could just go through that. Of course, there is a few red zones. There are places that have been highlighted, Nairobi, Kiambu, and Kajiado, which could be, the capital city and its environs, and this could be affecting a lot of families, a lot of businesses. But when you look towards the true cost of flooding, you will find that 21 counties have already been affected and 26,748 acreage of crops have already been affected as well. That is, of course, 18 schools and almost 10,000 households have been displaced in the capital alone, translating to around 60,000 people. Over 100 businesses have been affected. Of course, those numbers are only getting higher by the day. 11 roads have been destroyed, and when roads are usually destroyed, a lot of infrastructure is compromised, a lot of businesses cannot operate. 35 IDP camps have been established by, of course, Red Cross, and thank God we have a representative here today, and around 3,500 livestock have been lost. This is the impact of floods within the country. Nicholas, you do come from, a largely nomadic area. Livestock is something very close to nomads. I would know, I'm Somali. 3,500 livestock. How exactly is this going to be impacting communities from your area?
First of all, I can say this is not the right number.
Right.
Actually, I can tell you they have not even got the right number.
Right.
Because up to now, we are still losing a lot of livestock.
As the floods continue, of course, the numbers are ballooning.
The medias are not all over, and no one can report that.
Right.
It's raining all over. Like I can tell you, last night it was raining in Narok. I told you we lost 2 rangers.
Right.
In Masai Mara Game Reserve. We lost some land cruisers, and the animals, both wildlife and
domestic animals.
Yeah, actually get lost. And even human beings, they can get lost, but no one can report it because, Masai's pastoralists, we don't have time to go and say, someone have got lost.
Most of the time, these statistics are compromised by the unwillingness of a lot of communities because people are just trying to survive. They do not have the time to give you the numbers. But could you just give us a rough estimate of what exactly is happening since you're there and you're here with us tonight?
Yeah, definitely I can tell you I've lost a lot of livestock. Just because, and even we have lost a lot of businesses, because you see we are pastoralists, we sell milk, we sell meat, we don't have roads.
Right.
So you find where we go for grazing, when it rains, cows don't go home. So wildlife also get into the cows, lions and hyenas, they eat the cows.
Right.
So I can tell you it's a lot of, it cannot be 3,500 actually, can be even 5,000.
Right.
To me.
Right.
So I can tell you, and it is still going on. It is going on actually. And this is the time we are saying we are happy because as pastoralists, it is raining, cows will get good health.
Right.
But we are facing a lot of problems because of we are losing a lot of lives because of rains.
Right.
They get washed, and sometimes they get lost at night also when it is not when it's raining. The guys who are grazing the cows, they also go and try to shade.
Right.
At that moment, they cannot get where the cows have gone. So most of the herders actually they have lost a lot of cows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, as we even look into that, the numbers could be changing. Of course, now where rainfall is above 50 millimeters, in 24 hours. there is an advisory from the Red Cross that if the water is beyond 6 inches, you do face the possibility of being, swept by the floods. Victor, I'll come to you now. Over 100 businesses have been affected. This number could be even more, as I've said before. How exactly is this impacting the economy of the country?
I think for you to be able to measure the real impact is looking at the different sectors that are affected by rains. So Kenya is largely, the economy is largely supported by agriculture. So agriculture contributes around 24% to GDP directly, and another 20%, so it's around 40% of Kenya's GDP relying on rainfall. And you always see a correlation between GDP growth and rain. So whenever we have droughts, you always see the economic activities tanking, because agriculture, of course, contributes directly to GDP, but also is very much interlinked with manufacturing. A lot of manufacturing in Kenya is agro-processing. And of course, it has also an implication on cost of living because of the availability of food. So good rain is good, but also excess rain becomes
too much of anything is poison.
becomes a challenge. So you can see, and I was talking to, I was in a forum in the morning, and I was talking to some farmers, and they were like, we planted vegetables, and the entire farm of 10 acres is completely flooded. So it means that they are going to lose that crop. So from that level, we know that it's going to have an implication on agriculture. The second bit, I think, as I said in my opening statement, is on small businesses. 75% of our businesses are in wholesale retail. And they rely on, and of course a majority are in Nairobi, and Nairobi contributes 24% to national GDP. So it means that if we have a majority of small businesses located within the capital city, who rely on walk-in customers to their businesses, and with floods, they cannot be able to make sales, they can't go to work, it means that they're going to get an impact. So if you combine those two in terms of agriculture and SMEs, we expect some significant impact or negative impact on the day-to-day or even the income levels of our small businesses. And I think that is something that should worry us. And like I said, is leadership should be able to anticipate, even if it's a natural disaster. Is we need to be able to get leadership and direction in terms of how do we mitigate and support our entrepreneurs, our residents, even in the situation that we are in. We already have budget. So all counties have a disaster management sector. National government has a coordinating agency that manages disaster. They've not given a statement yet. We've not received any statement in terms of action based on their ground intelligence in terms of this is the impact that we are seeing based on the couple of weeks we've seen. This is what we are doing. These are the challenges we are facing. It could be resources, that is agreeable, but we have Red Cross, we have different partners. Can you be able to coordinate all these people for us to be able to see significant action in terms of just being able to backstop our small businesses?
All right, and on that note, let's get the sentiments of the leaders that you have just spoken about. Let's hear what the governor of Nairobi has to say.
Tumepiga marufuku excavations kwa sites, all sites, especially those along riparian areas, with immediate effect. All excavations along riparian areas and all excavations of buildings, especially those that have gone close to their neighbors. All excavations have been stopped forthwith because the structural integrity of the buildings cannot be assured at this time. We have also halted all pending development approvals. All building development approvals have been halted for now until we're able to review all those that have been issued and that are continuing across the city.
Of course, that is the governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, speaking about a few new, guidelines that he is giving, especially when it comes to buildings. And speaking of structures that humans inhabit, of course, 35 IDP camps have been established by the Red Cross. Anthony, I'll throw this to you. When it comes to, where people live, the habitat, where exactly you reside, how exactly has the situation been?
And we need to look at different factors. first of all, when you look at floods as a disaster, there is people affected, and I would say a bigger majority are affected. When you can't get to work in time, when trees disrupt traffic, we are all affected in a way, and that's why it then becomes news. After that, there are people who are directly affected in that they would be displaced, but they have a way to live. They would go out, rent out spaces, or get incorporated into other families. But there are those who, when they get displaced, then they don't have anywhere to go.
Right.
And this is where we come in. So among the displaced, we are looking currently at 11,000 families.
Right.
When you say families, on average, give or take, you multiply by 5.
Right.
Now, for each household displaced, the average kit of a shelter kit, which is what we usually distribute when you see us giving non-food items, give or take, it costs like 10,000 shillings.
Right.
So you're looking at 2 tarpaulins, which are like tents, looking at blankets, 2 blankets, a kitchen set. A kitchen set has a whole, it's a whole set, 2 sauce pots, 5 plates, 5 cups, 5 spoons, a knife, and 2 cooking sticks. It's a set to make you just come back to survive.
Get back on your feet.
And start a life. Yeah, of course, with the shelter material.
Right.
So we're looking at 20,000 families at the average price of 10,000. That's 200 million shillings. So it's also expensive for us. And this is the direct cost. We've not even gone to the logistics that come with warehousing and moving from point A to B to whatever locations we are taking these non-food items. So it is a big cost, but again, someone has to bear, and this is where we go for well-wishers to support, and we're looking at average family, as I said, household package is 10,000.
Right.
But for us, the more important agenda is where are they being settled?
Right.
There are plans for evacuation centers. Are there plans, or is it happening sporadically?
Right.
Currently, what you're seeing is more sporadic than it is evacuation centers.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you would assume that it is the government and leadership that is going to be giving you somewhere to go, especially when you're in areas that have been marooned. Let's take a look at what the governor had to say about that.
The meteorological department has told us that the rains are going to continue, and so we urge people not to wait to be moved, but to actually move themselves. Tafadhali msingoje kusongeshwa. Kama pali huko jana kulinyesha, unafikiri leo ni safe, leo labda mvua itakuwa zaidi. So usisubiri kusongeshwa.
Usisubiri kusongeshwa. That's what the governor has said. Now I'm going to be throwing it to you, Nicholas. What do you think about this whole situation?
Actually, I can say this. I think the government is not ready.
Right.
For this, and people are also not ready. As I'm telling you, the nature is nature, and this is climate change. This is real climate change. We're destroying, actually I can say, it's destroying everywhere. Actually, Narok County feed Nairobi. There are no roads. As my friend is talking about business, those people who depend on Nairobi to get items to sell in their shops in Narok, they cannot get, because where are they going to pass? As you know, Suswa Road always get cut off. And even going to reserves, we are farming of maize, potatoes, and many other things. They cannot get to Nairobi or even get to Narok because the roads are not there. So actually, I'm saying that these are very, very dangerous time, very dangerous time, because the leaders are not talking about it. I'm not seeing leaders talking about it.
Right.
People are just talking politics. And I can say it's only Nairobi where we're getting news. But in other counties, news are not coming from the counties. Maybe a lot of people are affected there. As you say, IDPs and many other things. Actually, I appreciate Red Cross, they are all over. But the government is not ready to have a land to give people or to take people.
Right.
And people are suffering, actually, I'm telling you. As you see right now, people are losing their houses. Yeah? They are running to other people. People are building and buying lands where they are not supposed to buy. So the government is supposed to guide people on farming, on roads, and even prepare roads for them to transport their foods.
Right.
And build hospital, because right now we have a lot of cholera.
Right.
I can tell you.
Right.
Because
that usually is, the consequence of flooding.
Exactly. Cholera is already there. We don't have a medic. They're on strike, you can see.
Right.
And even Nairobi beef, where the people who supply beef,
right.
I'm sure beef is not coming to Nairobi.
Are you telling us that we're compromised right now? Because I'm a big fan of meat myself.
I'm telling you. Beef and goats and beef, I don't think they are, because there are no roads. It's raining a lot. The cows are there. We need to transport them to Nairobi to sell. Where the guys who always transport them, they cannot, because the roads are not there.
Right.
So I can say community are really suffering. The business people are also suffering because they wait the people from the south. They need potatoes, they need beef, and even us, we need sugar from Nairobi.
Of course.
So we're all suffering, actually.
Right.
It's better for the government to tell us where is the budget for disaster.
Of course.
In every county. Each and every county should tell us, this is a budget for disaster. How prepared are you? Have you gone to the ground? Are you getting information from the entire community? Do you know who is suffering? How many people died? How many cows are washed away? How many schools are washed? That's what we need to know. And which measures have been put in place.
Right.
Because I know a school opening, I don't think most of the schools cannot be open.
Of course.
They might not be there.
There's a ripple effect that we're seeing here. All sectors, as you had said, Victor, earlier, have been affected in one way or another. But now let's talk about getting back on our feet. Mmeambiwa mjisot. How exactly should businesses be handling this situation right now?
I think it's unfortunate, number one, in terms of just saying, move before we move you. The assumption is that I have money to move. Even just moving from one house to the next is always, a significant, there is a significant cost outlay. So I think leadership has to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of us, or a lot of residents, or a lot of Kenyans are basically broke.
Right.
So I think maybe a better advice would be then, as my colleague is saying, can we get a coordinated approach towards this emergency? I think the office of the deputy president within government is the one that coordinates government. We also have the coordinating agency, National Disaster Coordinating Agency, that can be able to just bring different people together. I think the last time we had a major crisis, I think it's Red Cross that really pushed. I think government has the mandate of being able to pull different stakeholders together to see what resources are there, who has what competencies, what is the situation on the ground, and how can we be able to deploy. Otherwise, if you tell guys, Mjisot, then it becomes very difficult. There is no way I can sort myself.
Right.
So I think we need, the challenge around businesses are known.
Right.
I mean, if you have to look at SMEs, if you have to look at agriculture, if you have to look at different, they're known. I mean, the challenges are known.
Right.
So not to dwell on long-term, solutions, but for now, I think, based on where we are, I think, and in any emergency, even in a house, if you get someone who's sick and you wanted to buy a car, you stop buying the car.
Of course.
And sort out this emergency.
Of course.
So I think this is a disaster, or should be declared a national disaster, and coordinated effort to be able to quantify the losses and see or prescribe ways of supporting this. And this happened during COVID. We had the COVID stimulus program, which was like, businesses have been affected. This is our response in terms of programs, in terms of resources towards this particular sector. So there is no way someone whose maybe tomatoes have been washed, cows have died, and tell them, Jisot. I mean, you can't resurrect a cow.
Of course.
You have to find a program to ensure that, in the short term, in this emergency situation, at least you're able to replace the income as you look for a longer or medium to long term solution to support them.
Victor, before we go to you, Anthony, I think I'll go to Nicholas. I feel like you have a point to add on to whatever Victor has said.
Yeah, definitely. I want to say, the way the national government has the Drought Management Authority, they should also have a national disaster or climate management.
Right. Because this is happening clearly. It's coming in strong.
Yeah, I'm saying that because, as you see, kila county, kila ward should be having people who have been prepared.
Right.
When there is time come, they are ready for that.
Right.
There are people who should be educating the local community. Watu wamebeba na maji kwa sababu hajajua. watu wanafikiri ni maji ni ile mvua ya kawaida. Watu wana TV, hawana radio, viongozi wafiki huko, wako hapa Nairobi.
Right.
Mwananchi wa huko, yeye mwenyewe atalia lilie nani?
Right.
So I'm saying this, the national government should be very, very serious.
Right.
Or make sure the budget for this disaster isiwe disaster ya karatasi.
Right.
Iwe disaster ya budget imewekwa kwa county na sisi wenyewe wananchi waambiwe pesa iko hapa na hiyo pesa itengwe shida kama hii ikitokea.
Right.
Kwa saini nikisema kama Narok County wakati shida imetokea kama watu wamepotea sijaona magari imetoka ya serikali imeenda kusema acha tufuate wale wamechukuliwa na maji, hatujaona wale watu wakuweza kusaidia ama ndege juu. So we want to see at least real action ya kwamba serikali shida imetokea tumeona kazi yake.
Of course. As time continues to take, because I'm seeing the conversation is getting very spicy, but we're getting closer to 10:30 p.m. and it's getting me a bit, I would love for this to continue. Victor, before I give you a chance to speak, I think let me just get the sentiments of Anthony, because I feel like you've also been itching to add on to that. You have been, from this panel, chosen as, of course, the best prepared for disasters. The government is getting bashed quite a bit. Maybe you can give us a few statements on that.
Thank you. So nationally, in terms of coordination, we have the National Disaster Operations Center.
Right.
And they are already the lead in terms of managing the current floods and current disaster. So every day, agencies are meeting at the National Disaster Operations Center, where we sit in that committee, and they are the lead in coordinating all of us. After that, as humanitarian agencies, there is UN OCHA, which also coordinates the humanitarian interest of a particular disaster. They are also coordinating hand in hand with the National Disaster Operations Center. We are at the Secretariat also as a response and the lead agency. Kenya Red Cross is not an NGO.
Right.
We are here by an act of parliament as auxiliaries to government efforts. So people should not confuse whenever you see Red Cross out there. Partly, we are there representing government because we are auxiliaries to government efforts when it comes to disaster. Yes, the government of the day has the sole responsibility for disasters whenever they happen.
Right.
We come in as auxiliaries. So by and large, government is on board. They are coordinating us. The only thing is sometimes Red Cross with the jackets and everything, we tend to be seen more
at the forefront,
and there's no uniform for people responding with on disasters from government.
Right.
But again, coming back to everyday movement and approaches, we have community-based disaster response teams, which we've trained in matters disaster. I won't take credit for the rescues we conducted today.
Right.
Majority of them started way early, 3 a.m. in the morning, and they were being done by these community-based disaster response teams that we've trained. By the time we were joining them early in the morning at 6, most of the rescue had already happened, and we just came on to support this.
Right.
We have a toll-free number, which is supported by Safaricom, 1199, and people were calling. It was ringing off the hook before 4. And again, as I say, it's a community-based disaster response teams that were on the forefront of the rescue before we came in.
Right.
So just to appreciate their efforts.
Right, and it's important to point that out, but that still, I believe, does not take away from the fact that a lot of Kenyans who have chosen these leaders want their leaders to be on the ground, helping them wherever it is necessary. Victor, now I'll throw the ball to you.
Maybe I just wanted to add that we always have this contrast in Kenya where there's bumper harvest in Marsabit, and people in Makueni are sleeping hungry.
Right.
And it's very, I don't know, it's why it's always difficult for us to be able to move
as a unit
food from one county to the next. And there's something that for years we've failed as a country to focus on, which is called cess.
Right.
So cess is a levy that is paid by any person who's moving either agricultural or construction material from one county to the next. So for every county that you move your potatoes from Narok to Kenya, not to Kenya, but to Nairobi, you have to pay cess for each and every county that you traverse. So even if we wanted to bring food for free, from Narok, the cost of transporting and paying taxes to bring the same produce to Nairobi is double the cost of even producing, doing that production.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. There are low-hanging fruits that even government can be able to, coordinate and give reprieve. For why should maybe, for example, vegetables rot in Nyandarua, yet someone in Mathare or Mukuru is going to sleep hungry. Right. Yet there is food that is rotting in the farm. So I think there has to be some empathy, there has to be some urgency, there has to be sympathy from our leaders to move away from thinking about their stomachs to really thinking about the common Omondi or common Wanjiko that is really suffering. Otherwise, I think there is, and you can sense that there is a sense of desperation, hopelessness that we are seeing on the ground, where we've reached a point where people are even tired. You don't even have the energy to call out our leaders. I mean, we've reached a point where guys are really, really tired. And I think this is an opportune moment for, a Damascus moment of sorts for our leaders to take back leadership and just be able to give direction and salvage this very bad situation.
Right, of course, Victor, and there were efforts to, try to push the government into declaring this a national disaster, which would ensure that a lot more action is taken, considering that the rains are only going to be continuing, right? He has talked about how it is very difficult to be moving some goods from, Mashinani, bringing it back to either the capital or the other way around. How exactly has this been affecting the community?
Actually, it is affecting a lot. Sometimes we pass through Panya routes to avoid passing the roads.
All right.
Because of taxes.
Okay.
And definitely we are farming. We are farmers. Like Narok, we do a lot of farming. A lot of potatoes coming from Narok. Mahindi choma, as you say, you can see when you're going away. Right. So we can actually even donate food to the people who are getting problems in Nairobi. But because of those taxes, if the tax can be removed, we bring food for free to give the people who are suffering. That could be much better. Right. But I can also say, with elected leaders in the CDF or even the county government, the CDF, there should be a certain percentage for disaster, if it is possible.
Right.
It will be much better because the MP is a person who is elected there.
Of course.
Who is supposed to be in front to save the people and face the problem within his area.
Of course.
Why do you call Red Cross? So I think our leaders should be number one to go and see what are the problems within the community.
Right.
Schools, roads, dams, like pastoralists.
Right.
Why this water is just running away? We could have already done a lot of dams.
Right. And
ponds to have storage for this water than water just going all the way.
Right.
And after 1 year or a few months, we'll start crying, saying there's drought of water.
Right.
So as a country, we need to be serious.
Right.
National government, the county government should be very serious, actually.
Right.
We want to see all these machineries which are bought doing work to the entire community. And the disaster department should be a real disaster management team to be seen by the community. Another thing, my friend is talking of Nairobi. Who is talking about the other community areas? No one is reporting. Where are the reporters who are reporting that the cows are already being eaten, they've been washed, 50 people have been washed by water? No one.
Right.
Because the leaders are in Nairobi and the reporters cannot go to the ground.
Right.
And most of the people, most of the communities, they don't have these phones.
Right.
They have Mulika Muisi, and there is no Kenya Power there. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot to be done. A lot to be done to save the community.
As good as this conversation is getting, gentlemen, I've just been informed that we have 3 minutes. So it is my responsibility to share it out, a minute each. Let's be considerate of the other person. I'll start with you, Anthony. Maybe some concluding statements, and maybe even, could you just tell us this coordinated response, where do we see it going in the future?
Thank you. The coordinated response is gonna get better.
Right.
Gonna get better because we're learning the hard way most of the time. And along the way, these lessons will come into fruition and we'll start practicing them. But for me, as we close, we're looking at rescuing lives. For now, we just want the fatalities numbers not to increase.
Right.
And for this, today, the message is use a rope. Get ropes, have ropes around for rescuing self. Because we've noticed even where we're going to rescue people, half of the time we're using ropes. These are congested areas where we can't just, even if we want to navigate with our rescue boats, we can't. So getting so many distress calls where even us as rescues, we're using ropes to get to people. If someone is being washed away and you're able to throw a rope to them, don't go jumping in. The moment you jump in to try and become a hero, then double drowning occurs.
Right.
So let's get ropes in our homesteads.
Right.
And long ones for that matter.
Right.
This is what is going to help us.
Right. I've never known that ropes could be important. I don't even think I own a rope myself. I should buy one. Victor, tell us your final sentiments.
I think we need to move away from just talk and PR to actually implementing programs that we already know that exist.
Right.
We have enough laws, we have enough policies, we have enough manifestos. I mean, we need to just start implementing and putting money where our mouth is.
Right.
We should not continue joking with Kenyans' lives as if they're not worth anything.
Right. Put your money where your mouth is, to whoever that is directed to. And finally, Nicholas, your final sentiments.
We want a serious government.
Right.
We want to make sure the roads like Ngong to Suswa should be complete to avoid Maimahio Road. When it rains, it's a problem.
Right.
We also need the government to make sure all these roads coming from farmers' areas should be given first priority because of food supplies. Schools and hospitals should be the priority, actually. And awareness should be number one also, because let people be aware that there is rain, there is climate change. They are not aware.
Right.
So that should be done.
Right.
And also the budget. I call it the budget for disaster. I've not seen it myself. I've just heard about it. I've seen it in the newspapers.
Right.
But we want to see real budget and see the people who are working on it.
Of course.
Because we have lost a lot of animals.
Right.
We lose people. We have lost wildlife. We have lost food. And I'm telling you, we need to stop that. We don't know. Kenya is a good country.
Right.
Kenya can depend on itself.
Right.
But with these kind of things, it cannot depend on itself.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for adding to this conversation. I think we've touched on flooding, the cost of flooding, more than we have in the past few days. Thank you so much for being a part of the marketplace. This conversation will continue, of course, as the days go by. Do interact with us on our social at TV47 News, at TV47KE. From me, Hibak Said, it's good night. Until next time.